Right. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face east towards Jerusalem. Elder Mikael, can you open us up with prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, Yahweh, most holy and true covenant, Elohim, of Abraham, Yeshua, and Yaakov, we give you thanks, all praise in Yeshua's name, Father Yahweh. Your Son, HaMashiach, Father Yahweh. We give you thanks and praise, Father, because you allowed us, Father, to come together to mikvah, Father Yahweh, on this Pesach, Father Yahweh. We give you praise, Father Yahweh, for allowing us, Father Yahweh, to observe this day, Father Yahweh, to give thanks, Father, and praise, Father Yahweh, for allowing us to be a part of this, Father Yahweh. Heavenly Father, we pray to touch our hearts, Father Yahweh, to keep our hearts malleable, soft, Father Yahweh, to receive your word and understand your word, Father. Let us, Father Yahweh, look at ourselves, Father Yahweh, and ask you, Father, to show us ourselves, Father Yahweh, because we're about to take this Pesach, Father Yahweh, and we know what it says, Father, in 1 Corinthians, I think, chapter 11, Father Yahweh. And we don't want to take this Pesach, Father Yahweh, undeserving, Father. So we ask, Father Yahweh, Yeshua's my name, to touch our hearts and let us look at ourselves, Father Yahweh, to give you all glory and honor, Father Yahweh, because you want us to change, Father Yahweh. You want us to be better, Father Yahweh, so we can serve you, Father Yahweh, and have our life, Father Yahweh, shine that you've given us, Father Yahweh, from your Son, Father, that came from you. We give you thanks and praise, Father Yahweh, to allow us our life, Father, to shine throughout the world, Father Yahweh, to touch others, Father Yahweh, to desire, Father Yahweh, what we have, Father Yahweh, and we have you. So we give thanks and praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name, Father Yahweh. Amen.
Amen.
Rocco said amen.
Yeah. Really warm. I like it. I can take off my jacket. Yeah, bro. I had to go to the doctor today for my eyes. So now I look like I'll be getting another pair of glasses, like bifocals now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm like, wow.
That's okay, old man. You got a young chick.
Yeah, young chick. Look
Good.
at this beautiful she is.
Even though I had eye surgery last year.
I do remember, though, when I first came to NCCI, and I saw you, I thought you were one of the young girls. Like, I literally did.
Ain't that wonderful?
And then Elder Mikael was like, yeah, this is my wife. I was like, oh, okay.
That was all that working
Crib
out.
robbing. Crib robbing.
I was in the gym constantly.
Crib robbing.
Oh, thank you, brother.
I was going to the gym two times a day, Paul.
Yeah, girl, and it really helped me with stress. I really got to get a routine together again, but it's not really all that.
She took full advantage where I couldn't go to the gym because I had knee surgery.
Yeah. I'm trying to do like I was telling you, like 20 minutes 3 times a week. And
You want water,
that's sufficient.
We don't have a short class, though.
Yeah, chocolate.
I'm not going to be more than gym.
Get to the grub. Just wait till you try what she made for this class, bro.
I already know it. We never both had coupons on the side.
And unless we need it, I should.
Both y'all got poopies on today.
Yeah, that's the first time. All three of us. All
Yeah.
four of us. These males is covered. Koofy Nation.
Koofy, yeah.
And exfoliated. You know what I'm saying? The hair getting air and everything.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir. Oh, you're gonna, okay. But I don't want it going over real quick.
Ain't nothing over there.
Okay.
Over there.
All right. Shalom. My name is Yadon Yahshua, my brother Yanti Yahshua. Shalom, bro. And we are in our Pesach 2018, which is Passover, the 14th day of Abib. The title of our study for today is Christ Yahshua, our Passover. Christ Yahshua, our Passover. And You know, a lot of years when we were newer to the understanding, you know, we used to keep and physically take the Passover on the 14th day of Abib because it's called Passover. So we assumed, you know, you do it on the 14th. But as we, you know, praise Yah, we were, you know, exposed to maybe some other brothers that had a little bit of better understanding of Hebrew. We were challenged. We were led of the Spirit. We started to look deeper into it, and we started to see, when you look at how it was written in its original language, that the Passover, even in the English and the Greek, with all the clues was there. The preparation day, and why is Christ eating it on a different day, and all these different things, and we were led to understand and show and be able to prove that on Passover is the preparation day. On the 15th day, which is unleavened bread, is the feast day. That is the day in which, thank you, that is the day in which you physically take the Passover. So today is a holy day. It is the 14th day. It is Passover because of the events that happened on this day. But on the 15th is when you physically take the Passover and when you're actually doing the appearance. For the appearance, as we went over in Shabbat, you want to sanctify yourself to the third day. So all males must appear before Yah on unleavened bread, on Pentecost, and on Tabernacles. So our first appearance will be tomorrow night, which will be beginning the 15th of Abib, and all brothers should have begun sanctifying themselves since Sunday night. So Sunday night, you should be clean going into Sunday night, clean going into Monday night, which is 2 days, which makes you sanctified to the third day going into Tuesday night. So we're going to open up first in Shemot chapter 12, Exodus chapter 12, and we're going to read the first Passover. And the first Passover was being kept in captivity. In captivity. So there was obviously an ability to honor the Most High on his day, memorialize the day on the while we were in captivity. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 12. And verse 1. And this chapter gives you a lot of explanation of stuff too, as well as the month of Abib and the first month, and gives you a lot of foreshadowing of things to come in the future of how we will memorialize this. Eventually we get to the point where we were not able to do the actual animal sacrifices, but we're supposed to always memorialize the things that Yah did for us on those days that he set apart as his Moadim.
Exodus, Shemot, chapter 12, and verse 1. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak you unto all the congregation of Yahshua, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb.
All right, so even in the holy day being set up here, the first one for the year, besides New Year, he's setting in order to say, listen, everything you have doesn't belong to you. If you have more than enough, then you share with your neighbor. And then you have more than enough so that you and your neighbor could have. You don't have more than enough so that you can just have an overabundance and waste. It was all about us being a nation as a family, coming together and keeping the commandments and helping each other be passed over from the death that was already due to us from our own transgressions and our own sins. And shalom, Sister Corrine Berry, good to see you. Shalom, Sister Marshall, hope you are feeling better. And shalom, Brother Yael, Malachi Israel, good to see you, brother, and to Sister Cana as well. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Yahshua shall kill it in the evening.
All right, so kill it between the evenings. If you look at that word in the evening, it's bain, letting you know it's between, not in, but between. So there's the in-between times. And when you look at Jubilees 49, it explains it a lot better than what's given here in Exodus 12. It talks about how you have the daytime splitting in 3 parts. It's 3 parts day, so it would be about 4 hours or so each one. Because being that we're in spring, which is close to equal day, equal night, it's very close to that time, so it's not going to be too off. And the 3rd part of the daytime, the last 4 hours of the daytime, is given to the night, even though there's some light. 2 portions to the light, 1 given to the night. So in that 3rd portion, that last 4 hours, when you read through Jubilees 49, it tells you when you physically do it. After the sun goes down, then you kill it. So that's why you're killing it in the evening. Evening is even, and after even is ing, evening. Just like you can run, and running is after you're already running. So it's after even breaks, you have the evening portion, and that's when you kill it after the sundown.
I got one thing to say.
Go ahead, brother.
I wanted to go back to what you said, dealing with, I think it was verse 5. Yes, verse 5. It said, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from among the sheep or our goats. And the word blemish just stuck in my head for a second. And it's also dealing with, the Messiah. This Passover, we're dealing with, later on, we probably going to read something like that, a bone was broken, because his bone was not supposed to be broken. He was perfect. He did everything he was supposed to do perfectly. So this, without blemish, is supposed to be the most perfect lamb or perfect goat that you can find that is of yours or you can purchase, at that time. And you're supposed to take care of that lamb, so you're supposed to take care of that lamb like it's your own child. Because when, I think we spoke about this before, when it is time to sacrifice that lamb, you're going to feel remorse. You're going to feel this pain because you had to give this lamb up for sacrifice. As when we go back again, to atonement. Right. That's really dealing with atonement. But this lamb, you're supposed to care about this lamb too. Not just be just sacrifice without any care about it. When you got blemish, you care about what kind of lamb you're giving to the Father. Just like when Abel gave to his sacrifice to the Most High, he gave the best of what he had, And what he had to do, he had to go look at every sheep that he had. He had to go find out the best that he had, and he gave it to the Father. Because you don't want to give sloppy seconds. You don't want to give the worst or the lame or something that you didn't want or didn't care about as much. What you was proud of. What you said, oh, that's the best one, so I'm not going to keep it, so I'm going to give it to the Father. So how did that talk about us? We are supposed to try to search ourselves to give the best to the Father. So we don't be a flawed sacrifice. Right. So this is not just something that we look at it on the surface. It's something how we're supposed to look at ourselves, because as a Messiah, who was the last lamb to give himself as sacrifice, we've been called sheep too. We give it to the slaughter consistently. Well, then these sheep that Yahweh calls silent and stiff-necked, stupid and hard-headed, we're supposed to look at ourselves and find out, well, where am I going wrong? Let me call my Father and say, what is the thing I'm going wrong that's not pleasing unto you? So if we don't search ourselves, how are we going to give ourselves as unblemished as possible to the Most High, so we can get some of these spots off our garment before Him? So I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you feel I'm wrong, but I believe we're supposed to look at ourselves in this manner too. That we supposed to say, I'm in error. I'm flawed, yes. Now how can I rectify that problem? What does my Father think of this problem? And how am I supposed to do the will of the Father if I won't try to hear His correction? So I put that in there because it goes further than that. Because his son, as we look at the Passover, he abided in his father. He did everything his father said do. And if he didn't do it, it's because he knew if he didn't do this, somebody else gonna look at him.
Right.
And say, well, you're supposed to be how you say the first fruits of everything. So if you don't do it right, why should I do it right?
Right.
It's the same example he put on the Pharisees. They're following the law by stating the law, but they're not doing the law. So don't do as they do what they say. Because if you do what they say, they're doing the law. But don't do what they're doing because they're not following law personally.
Right.
You know, so I just want to bring it up. All that just kind of popped in my head right there dealing with this Passover, you know?
Right. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 7. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and upon the upper doorposts of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
Covered under the blood. Go ahead.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
Okay, so if they're eating the flesh in that night, that means the night begins the day. That means it's the 15th. Because they can't kill it until the evening. You 14th day and you don't kill it in the evening. So that night that they ate was the night they left. So all the clues are there to let you know that it has to be on the 15th that you're eating it. Because they didn't leave on the 14th. They left on the 15th. That's why I said it's a night to be remembered. Go ahead.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Verse 9. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire his head with his legs, and the purtenance thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, and your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover.
All right, and this is the only feast day where he's telling you to eat it with haste. Everything else is, relax, this, that, but no, eat it with haste. Before the morning comes, I want it out. Yahweh's law is, after 3 days, you got to get rid of it. But this situation, he said you can't even let it reach the morning. And that's again, exercise in keeping instructions. Are you going to follow instructions? If I didn't tell you you got to get rid of it, you ain't got to do it. But if I tell you specifically, I need it done by a specific time, who's going to listen or who's just showing up for a meal? And the people showing up for a meal, they're going to show up, grab the meal. They're going to keep it for later because that's all they came for. Or who's showing up to keep the commandments and to gain some understanding of why they're doing the feast day that they're doing. Go ahead.
Verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Mitzrayim this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Mitzrayim I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Mitzrayim.
All right, so in verse 12, he's letting you know I'm slaying all firstborn in the land of Mizraim, both man and beast, against all the mighty ones of Mizraim. I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. So does that mean that Hebrews do whatever they want and they're not going to get killed? It's only talking about killing Egyptians? Nah. He said, I'm killing everybody. But if you want death to pass over you, you follow my instructions and you allow somebody else to receive the death for you. And you be covered under the blood. And that blood is to remind you that somebody else had to die for you because you would have been dead. But because he's merciful, he chose you out of all the nations in the world to show you how death can pass over you. Why? Because you just a great people? No. So you in turn could teach everybody else how death can pass over them. But I'm going to start with my firstborn first.
Go ahead. I got one question on that too.
Go ahead, Elder.
You're talking about verse 12, and he says, I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Israel, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgment.
Mhm.
I am Yahweh.
Mhm.
Now, why he said that?
Mhm.
He said, I'm going to deal with all your gods.
Mhm.
Because all your gods is idols. All your gods ain't real. They ain't alive.
Right.
You understand? You're dealing with one demonic spirit right here. One demonic spirit that you cut all these different gods out of. But you realize you're talking to that one demonic spirit.
Mhm.
You understand? But you're going to put God for the water, God for the air, God for the sun, God for this.
Right.
All this kind of stuff. And he's showing them right then and there. Your fake gods, your idols, got no power against
Can't
me.
do nothing.
Nothing. Oh, your priests got no power against me. And I'm going to show you. Let them go cry out to him. Let them try and do all the different things with Janus and Jambres. All them little things you want to do to try and stop what the plagues that I'm bringing unto you.
Right.
You understand? And you can't do a thing about it. He just showed right there. All that Kemet stuff that they believe in, all that kind of stuff, he just washed that clean out. You know, because this is not only biblical history, but it also secular history.
Mhm.
So I wanted to bring that point out that Yahweh don't leave no stone unturned.
Right. He's killing all your mighty ones. All Pharaoh thought he was a god too.
Yeah.
I'm killing all your, whether the fake idols, you see them fake idols ain't gonna save you. They
All
ain't
of
do
them.
nothing for you. Because everybody with them fake idols, their fake idol was right up there and your firstborn was dead.
That's right.
And Pharaoh, who had y'all believing he was a god, because a Hebrew set him up, because Yosef set him up in the
Mhm.
land, you know,
That's right,
to get them in a
That's right.
good position.
That's right.
That's why Pharaoh was in charge, because there was multiple landowners in the area that were big. But Pharaoh, the one that was in charge, Yosef, through his
Bring it.
visions, was able to set him up where he had the whole earth
He
in
made
debt
a
to him.
metropolis.
Had in debt to him, and that's
That's
what
right.
raised that Pharaoh high above everybody.
right.
And we were good. See, that's why we know the 400 years wasn't in the time of Egypt, because we weren't slaves that whole time.
We only 210 years.
But when
we
that
slaves.
Pharaoh died and another Pharaoh came up that, you know, thought was probably spoiled and inherited everything, or came from another people, I don't know the exact history. I don't know if you're hip to that. The Hyksos or whoever came in afterwards or before, I don't know. Different people, they forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
So Yahweh reminded them.
Yep.
Verse 15.
13, I think. 14, sorry.
Shemot chapter 12, Exodus chapter 12 and verse 14. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial.
All right. What is a memorial? What's the Hebrew word for that?
2146.
Let's look at that. This is a memorial. You don't get rid of a memorial. You're supposed to remember it. What is it? H what?
H 2146. Zikron.
Zikron, a memento, memorable thing, memorial record. So even though we don't do the animal sacrifices because the law of sin and death, the judgment for that, was removed from the hand of the children of Yahshua to execute that, we still remember, we still memorialize this. He never said, forget about this. You know, when Yahshua comes, forget about Yahweh's holy days. He never said that. So you're supposed to remember that. And then there's more instruction. Go ahead.
Verse 15.
14, read the whole thing.
Oh, for memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
So you should have a feast forever. The feast is separate from the sacrifice. You're not sacrificing, eating raw food. That's completely different. You have a portion that is sacrificed, and then you have a portion that is a feast day, which is a festival. You eat at a festival. Atonement is not a festival. There's no festival of atonement. You don't eat for that. But when it says feast, it's talking about a festival. It's not necessarily talking about us sitting down and feasting, but at a festival, you eat. That's where the word feast comes from. So festival, you're supposed to memorialize this, remember it, and you're supposed to sit down and eat the same way you did with the original Passover. You ate. Go ahead.
Verse 15. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Yahshua.
All right. From the first day all the way to the 7th day. Because on the first day you have your appearance. And when we read, I believe we read it last week, or earlier, last week on Shabbat, we read that you cannot offer his sacrifice with leaven. So this is why you have unleavened bread. on this time. You can't offer that sacrifice with leaven. And the whole purpose of getting rid of that leaven for that 1 week, because the other festivals you can have leaven, you just can't offer it with the sacrifice. You don't do that because you're practicing getting rid of the leaven in you.
No puff.
What causes you to puff up? What causes you to become sour? Because not only does leaven puff up, it also causes something to become sour. So get rid of the sour.
Yeah, and also, bro, I want to say, try and understand the way Yahweh said it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, spending your time on trying not to have yourself be puffed up, be prideful, and all this other certain things, get it out of you. All the things that Yahweh hates, so you can change to be, how you say, a profitable servant.
Right.
You know, so let's not look to find ways to get around those laws, to outthink those laws, to say we can think better of those laws. No. It's clear enough, right there and there.
Yep.
You know, real clear.
All the laws are, if you read it in the original form, it's clear.
Yeah.
The problem is we have been raised in a place where people are telling us things verbally. So we add our previous understanding to the laws in this book instead of just reading what it says and following the examples. Because it doesn't just tell you something and you don't have an example. He gives you an example of everything. Every transgression, especially all the ones that are grievous unto Yah, he gives you an example of that and a consequence for that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you.
All right. So if he wanted Pesach, the 14th, to be a Sabbathon where no work could be done, he wouldn't have made it as preparation day, because you can't be doing that on the day that you're supposed to be having the feast. So he purposely allowed Passover as grace for us to get prepared, because it was that important. It was that important that you were ready for that first appearance of the year to keep the plagues off of you for the rest of the year. And it was so important also that he said if you were not prepared, if you had that 14th preparation day and you still not prepared for the 15th, for whatever reason you were made unclean by a dead body or whatever the case may be, then wait till next month. And on the same day, you're going to do the same action, the same rights of the law.
Verse 17. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Mitzrayim. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until 1/20th day of the month at even.
All right. And again, here's some more common sense. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in the selfsame day I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. We were waking up in the middle of the night and told to leave on the 15th. So look at it this way. When does the day start? It starts at night. So if we kept the Passover and we had to have, and the Passover was killed in between evenings on the 14th, which is the 14th day, then you have the evening, which starts the 15th, right? Mm-hmm. If the day would start in the daytime, then that would technically be the 14th.
Yeah.
Or even if you did it on the 15th and just say it's after, that means you didn't have to eat it in haste. Because you had all day 14th, all day of the 15th, all the way to the night. And then you had to, you had all that time to prepare. That doesn't add up. So it's showing you right there, if you left on the 15th and you left in the middle of the night, you didn't even have the whole time. That had to be quick. Go ahead.
Verse 19. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eats that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Yahshua, whether he be a stranger or born in the land.
All right. So here's some more mercy. We had to remove all leaven from our house.
Yeah, we know of.
That we know of, the best we can. That is the process of thinking that. It's being removed. Remove the things that are going to cause you to sin, is what the leaven represents. But you didn't sin just because it's there. But Yahweh wants you to remove it completely just in case you sin. So he's telling you, remove the leaven for your house.
Yeah, so you don't make a mistake.
You didn't transgress the law by having some leaven in your house. It's eating that leaven.
Eating it.
But he wants you, by instruction, to get rid of it, because I don't even want it there, because it's not the practice of physically eating the leaven. It's getting rid of the sin. Getting rid of the things in you that's going to cause you to puff up and be in transgression.
And die.
So this is why if you find a little bit of leaven in your house and you gave your best effort, you okay. As long as you didn't eat it, you did the best you can. Now if you sit around and just say, you know, I ain't got to remove, I'm going to keep the spirit of the law. Like people that say, I ain't got to wear fringes, I'm just going to keep the law. You mess around and forget the law. But if you got the fringes on and you that's an extra layer, an extra step, because it's easy to get pulled into carnality. Because this happens every set of holy days, especially around Pesach. The Most High will allow the adversary, the devil, to come in here and drop all these carnal things. You don't really get big, heavy spiritual stuff to deal with around Passover, at least in my experience. Because you be spiritually equipped to deal with it, because your mind is already spiritually focusing on doing spiritual things. So that's not what the adversary does. He throws that carnal stuff at you. Little carnal things to pull you away from what you're doing, your mind frame of being spiritual. And that's what he does around these holy days. And Yahweh understood that, and that's why I said remove all this stuff. Remove the leaven. Get everything out so you don't accidentally fall in something. Just like somebody that say, I ain't got to remove the leaven, I just ain't going to eat. And he accidentally pick up some bread and eat it, not thinking, by habit.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the point I was making right there. In the beginning, Yahweh said, just don't come out your tent.
Just stay in your tent.
Stay in it. You can't keep an order. So it's going to kill you if you try to come out the tent, because you'll do something stupid. Why? You ain't practiced it. But if you doing this procedure, you're practicing to clean your house. You're practicing all day long with procedures that you have to do to wash walls, wash whatever possessions that you have, and it takes a little while. Go through everything you own to make sure you got no leaven left in it, you know. At the same time, we're supposed to be looking at ourselves to get the leaven out.
Right.
Okay? So if you're doing that procedure year in, year out, you have to focus on that. But in the beginning, we couldn't lend ourselves to that level of focus. You know what I mean? So you say, hey, just go in the tent and stay there, because you're going to do something stupid and I got to kill you. You know, so this procedure, you learn a little bit more.
Right.
You know, our learning abilities has advanced. So we learn a little bit more how to keep Yahweh's laws.
Right.
You know, and as we go on, we have to learn a little bit more every month for his 7 holy days. So this is what examples that I'm looking at right here. Mm-hmm. You know, as you mentioned, get all leaven we can find in the house, so we don't make a mistake and do what? Eat it. Because sometimes we don't be thinking sometimes.
Right.
And if we can follow these examples, when he knows we ain't gonna think about it, then we take that to the rest of our days of our life. Right. Not just that 1 week. Right. You understand? Preparing for that 1 week. We're supposed to adapt that into our daily walk, our life, to check what we do, check what we think. That's why we says Daniel prayed basically 3 times a day towards the east, because he wants to invoke his Father to hear him. So that lets him understand, I'm not forgetting this. I have an issue with this. So I'm praying to my Father to remember this, so he will help me get rid of it. You understand? Give me an answer to settle it. But if we don't think about what we're doing, then what are we praying on?
Right.
You know?
Right. And, you know, that whole idea of getting rid of that leaven, and he's saying you should have no leaven, because if you eat it, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you say, well, I ain't got to get rid of the leaven. I just ain't going to eat it. But then what happens to somebody else in your house? You pick that up and eat it by accident.
You're in trouble for it.
Somebody else ate it by accident. It's the same thing within us. Well, I ain't got to do this because I know legally I can do this, but then somebody else tripping because you didn't get rid of that leaven in you, because you thought you can handle it. You thought you can handle the temper, or you could handle, you know, a certain type of thinking or whatever.
Right.
But then somebody else that's not where you at yet is stumbling, offending, and Yahshua says you cause one of those little ones to offend one of those little ones, which is to cause to stumble,
That's right.
it's better if you'd had a millstone around your neck.
That's right.
Throw
Cast
it in the
yourself
water.
into the sea.
Go ahead, bro.
Verse
That's right.
20. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations, shall you eat unleavened bread. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Yahshua and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Mitzrites. And when he sees the blood upon the lintel, on the two side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. And it shall come to pass when you become to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say to you, What mean you by this service? That you shall say, It is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Yasharal and Mitzrayim when he smote the Mitzrites and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped.
Praise him.
And the children of Yasharal went away and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they.
All right. So we know what happened after that. The death of the firstborns. All of that happened. Now Pharaoh realized, okay, yeah, Yahweh is serious. Yahweh allowed that hooks to come out of his jaw. His neck was softened for a minute so that we can be released, but Yahweh made his point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Yeshua, Isaiah chapter 53.
Oh, brother. As my brother just read just now about them staying in the house, that's part of what I was talking about, stay in the house. They stayed because they knew that the hand was going to kill them. If they're going to get redeemed the next day, and, hopefully leave this place, that's what they're believing in, to leave this place, so they're eating in haste. You understand? All believing in unison is one body. And they knew that Moshe said, you come out the house, you're going to die, period. You play if you want to, but you come out the house and die, you're going to die. Now, I don't know if they had a visual thing at that time, but I remember when they made the movie in 1950s, they made a visual of a smoke hand coming out of the firmament, coming down to Egypt, and then drifting through the streets to check to find out whoever is being disobedient to die. So I don't know because I don't read that in here about that hand, coming down and so forth, that drift like they showed in the movie for good visual. But whatever and however, he looked at the people and told them what Yahweh was about to do, obviously it manifested in their heart because none of the children of Yahshua went outside the door to die that we know of.
Right.
So praise Yah. Now later on, they get a little hard-headed, and that's when you had to make them, those gonna come out to God during 10.
I think I did believe Yasher talks about, I don't know if you read it, it talks about some of the children of Yasharal, I believe, came out and died.
Okay? Because people are hard-headed.
And I wouldn't doubt
it.
I wouldn't doubt it, but I did read something about that, but at the end of the day, you were warned.
Yeah, you were warned.
You were warned. Point blank. If you're smart, you kept it inside, but that didn't really help them because they still couldn't allow Egypt to come out of their heart. Because all them same people, they just went out in the wilderness and died, except for Caleb and Yahshua.
That's right.
Caleb the Edomite. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. Wow. Yeshua, Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 1.
Who has believed our report? And to whom is the arm of Yahweh revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of a dry ground. He has no form or comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him.
Okay, so somebody tried to hint that they're talking about David here?
No way.
See how that's how he's just doesn't make any sense. No comeliness. David, they used to sing songs about that brother. They was in love with that brother. Go ahead.
Verse 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed.
Okay, so there was people that were wounded for our transgressions. You have prophets that died and got their heads cut off and things of that nature. You know, they carried some of our sorrows because Yahweh made them speak, like the weeping prophet, Jeremiah. You know, and he was stricken and afflicted, but none of their stripes healed us whatsoever. Yahshua's stripe healed us. So nobody else can fit in that. Not Moshe. Nobody else can fit in that where their stripes healed us. Go ahead.
Verse 6. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way. And Yahweh has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living, for the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth.
Now, who didn't do no violence?
Yahshua.
David did violence. He was so much blood on his hand, he couldn't even build a temple. Moshe murdered a man. He murked him, buried him in the sand.
Yes, he did.
So I don't know which prophet here, what prophet did we read about in this book didn't commit some kind of transgression? So there's only one person that can fit this, and it's definitely not the children of Israel, because every last one of us are sinners and have sinned. We're in a state of repentance. So it can't be talking about us as a whole nation alone, even though it's talking about us as a whole nation, because we are part of Yahshua, we are part of Yahshua. But it's talking about prophesying HaMashiach, our Passover lamb. Go ahead.
You can look at one right there, what he said. It made reference, brother. Just want to make a point. He made a reference right there to that verse, which is Mark 14:61, and he said, "But he held his peace and answered nothing." Again, the high priest asked him and said unto him, "Art thou the Christ, the Mashiach, the Son of the Blessed?" So then Yeshua spoke after that, "I am." You know, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but just making reference, another spirit talking about, you know, that's what they're talking about right now. They ain't talking about no other person but Yahshua.
Right. All right, and shalom, Brother Martin Alvarez. Shalom, Brother Gil. Good to see you all.
Verse 11. Verse 10. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him. He has put him to grief.
All right, and that's something that we have to consider. It pleased Yahweh to bruise Yahshua. It pleased him. Does that mean he's some sadomasochist or something that want to hurt people?
No.
It pleased Yahweh to see his servant that despite him suffering, he's going to keep these commandments and be an example for everybody else. And that's what we have to do in our lives. You start to grow when you suffer for righteousness. That's when you get growth. You don't get growth when you suffer. Well, you get growth, but that's the real growth. When you suffer for what you did, that's just righteous judgment. You know, that's just reaping what you sow. But when you do righteousness and you suffer for that, happy are you if you can endure that, because it's going to make you stronger. Because if you can suffer for doing the right thing, you have no problem suffering when you did the wrong thing, taking that punishment. You have no problem suffering to help somebody else because you have suffered for righteousness' sake. And this is what he wants from us. The closer we get to Yahshua and being part of his body is the more we're going to suffer for righteousness. And you ask yourself, man, how could a brother sit there and get stoned to death? Like Stephen, I used to ask that question. What kind of spirit was on him?
Boy.
But when you're exercising the spirit of Yahshua and you get to a point where you're really trying to be like him, a certain spirit will be able to stay with you where you're able to suffer for doing the right thing. And it will allow you to care more about your own personal situation because you understand this is nothing in comparison to what your brother did for you.
Yeshua, Isaiah 53 and verse 10. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When you shall make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hand.
Shall make his soul an offering for sin. When we hear soul, we thinking, the spirit, the soul. I got soul within me, man. Soul is the flesh, the breathing, the life-breathing part of you. So his body, when it says afflict your soul, it's somehow afflicting your body. So his body was for us, was an offering for sin. Physically. Go ahead.
He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hand. Verse 11. He shall see the travail. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he has poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Made intercession for the transgressors. The only person I saw that made intercession for the transgressors besides besides Yahshua was Moshe. Well, he stood in the breach for us. But at the same time, he poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors. Yahshua did not transgress.
No.
Everybody else transgressed in some kind of way. He did not transgress. So this cannot be talking about anybody else other than Christ Yahshua, our Passover. So let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to 1 John chapter 2, and we're going to read it from a New Testament perspective. 1 Yohanan chapter 2 and verse 2. Excuse me. 1 John chapter 2. It's like the third to last book. It's the third to last book in the New Testament.
First John, 1 Yohanan chapter 2, and we're starting at verse 1. My little children, these things write I unto you, that you sin not. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahshua Mashiach, the righteous. And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world.
All right. He's propitiation also, not for only us, but for the sins of the whole world, because the whole world has the same opportunity we have because of him.
Mm-hmm.
The covenant was made through us. They were alienated, but because of him and for our lack of belief, the rest of the world was included. But see that, y'all already knew that. That was already his plan from the get-go. But he had to let us figure that out. And propitiation is G2434. Hilasmos. And that's the Greek word that was translated propitiation. That's G2434. And that's spelled Hilasmos. Hilasmos. And that is atonement. He was atonement for us. He made it all right for us. We got a pass because of him. Something had to die. So a special body was prepared so that he could die for us, so that he can show us what it took for us to do spiritually was to die, to kill off that old man, so that the new person could have grace and be able to continue to move on. So he was our atonement, expiator, propitiation, our Passover. Go ahead.
Powerful what he's saying right now.
And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments. He that says, I know him, and keeps not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him.
Say that again.
And why would they say that right after saying that he's our propitiation for our sins? Does it mean that see, this is where people take this out of context. So he is our atonement for sin, so we can just continue sinning? It clarifies that in another place where it says, well, he can only be sacrificed once. He can't keep dying over and over and over. So he is our propitiation, that old way of thinking that just did transgression and did not care because, you know, the world said it was okay to do it, so it's not that bad. That got to die. That dies. And because of that, now you're in the process of enduring and trying to repent and getting rid of leaven, like if it was the rest of your life is one long week of unleavened bread, where you constantly just getting rid of sin, getting rid. And we all know when you clean it up and then you go to another room, you step in some stuff, and then now you got crumbs on your feet, like, oh crap, now to mess this thing back up again. Now you got to watch where you walk because you walked over there to a place that you didn't sweep, and you walked in a place you did sweep by accident because you're not paying attention. Same process with sin. Oh man, I fell back in this. So what you just do? Quit? Oh man, it's just, I guess it's just gonna be unleavened everywhere. No, you clean it up.
Clean it up.
You go back, then you go back what you cleaned up again, clean that up again, and go back where you didn't clean. So that's why he died, so that we could be in that process. Now, if you're not in that process, then he can't die for you no more.
Yeah.
And that death happens for you to get immersed. When you get immersed, that was your shot. After that, you in that process, if you stepped in something again, you better go clean it off and get back. Because if you leave it there and you decide, oh, I stepped in and I messed it up and I'm just going to leave it there, then he can't die for you no more. Nobody can die for you no more. That's it.
It's the next one. See, that's the powerful one right there. Very powerful, verse 4. We go to 5. I know this is one that I would say people look into it wrong. Back in the day, we looked into it wrong also. You know, 20-something years ago, thinking that all we got to do is, you know, keep his word. And the meaning and thoughts was, okay, we keeping his word because we reading his word. Oh, because we going to church on Sunday. You understand? Oh, we doing Easter, like what they have the pagan days coming up. We keeping those pagan days. Oh, well, I'm not as bad as some other people. I don't steal, you know, I haven't killed nobody, you know, all like that. So we wind up looking at ourselves and judging ourselves that we're better than somebody else. We're not looking at the real situation. Are you really keeping this word? Which my brother's going to read in a minute, and then we're going to expound on this second. So I just want to bring it up because this right here is deeper than what people, than surface knowledge.
Right.
1 John 2, chapter 5. But whoso, 1 John 2, verse 5. But whoso keeps his word in him, verily is the love of Elohim perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him.
Hereby know we that we are in him. If you're in somebody, you're in their body. So this is how you know you part of the body. When you keep in his word. And where was that? Did he make it up? He just, you know, he's a rapper and he wrote the verses or something? Nah. His Father's word. He told you, these are not my words. These are my Father's words. I'm not even taking credit for it. I'm the word. I'm not even taking credit for myself.
Right.
So if he's the word and he's not taking credit for ourselves, who are we to take credit for ourselves? We can't make anybody get increase.
No.
Nobody.
Nobody.
So if we can't make nobody else get increased, what makes you think you can make yourself get increased? And what was that you brought up earlier, Brother West, that Brother Yonton was telling you? That we are not the author of what? Our faith. You ain't the author of your faith. You ain't sit down one day and write out what you're going to believe and how you just going to be righteous and like a script. The Most High, now you can think that you want that. Because many of us, everybody in the room wants that. Wants the true faith through works in the Mashiach. We all want that. But if Yahweh didn't write that, it ain't going to happen. And that's why Yahshua said, all these that you gave me, not one of them was plucked from my hand except the son of perdition, so the scriptures could be fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to what Brother Wes and I were talking about. You ain't going to screw nobody up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if what you said, even if you was off or you was right or you was wrong, causes them to go astray, that was already in the plan. Don't mean you ain't going to suffer loss for it. But you're not going to, what you do is not going to determine the end game. Yahweh determines that. And if you mislead somebody, you're going to suffer loss. But if you did it in the spirit of, hey, I was trying to help somebody, then guess what? Your works get burned, but you saved thereby by your works. So you can't be afraid to try to help somebody. But what you got to do is make sure that you're prepared. Because if you didn't prepare for Passover, then want to show up and talk about, man, I can't keep the Passover. I didn't sanctify myself. Or I was unclean. Or I did some really wicked stuff and I just, I messed up. And then y'all was like, all right, you better prepare yourself for the second one. And you mess up again, that's it. So you have to prepare the same way when you talk to people, the best you can. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 6. He that says he abides in him ought himself also so to walk even as he walked.
Okay, so if you're in the body, this is how you know you walk as he walked. You keep the commandments. Go ahead.
Brethren, I write no new commandment unto you, but an old commandment which you had from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which you have heard from the beginning. Again, a new commandment I write unto you, which thing is true in him and in you, because the darkness is past and the true light now shines. He that says he is in the light and hates his brother is in darkness even until now.
Because you hate your brother, you hate Yahweh. Your brother, where he came from? He came from Yah. You can't hate one of his children. Now, you don't have to be just in love with him. I want to spend every day with him. No, he never said that. Because he said, if it possible, be at peace with everybody. And sometimes the only way you can have peace is separate from somebody. I can love you from a distance. But at the end of the day, you cannot have that hatred in your heart. Because if you have that hatred in the heart, you're being a hypocrite. You acting like you never done something that would warrant somebody to hate you for something. But you want somebody to say that's not you. You made a mistake. So you have to be the same way. You have to be merciful. But again, you ain't got to be nobody's fool. But hate is a very, very strong word. Yah said he hate Esau. But he told us not to hate Esau. And he told us, and Yah killed the firstborn of the Egyptians. But he said, do not hate those Egyptians. He was a stranger in his land. But he did say, hate sin. Go ahead.
Verse 10. He that loves his brother abides in the light, and there is none occasion of stumbling in him.
The brother that loves his brother is going to, even if it hurts him, he's going to try to give love to him, which means sometimes not dealing with you is love. Or sometimes correcting you when it's going to make cause a division between us. Or cause me to lose out on some money. Or lose out on a drinking partner. Brother, can you grab that incense, please?
Yeah.
Verse 11. But he that hates his brother is in darkness and walks in darkness and knows not where he goes, because that darkness has blinded his eyes.
All right. So that's all we're going to do today. We want to consider this today is the preparation day. I mean, we try our best to get all the leaven out of our house by at least for Passover, but he gave you that extra day of mercy to, if you still got some stuff that's in there that you forgot, or you still got some stuff that you didn't reconcile, go ahead and take care of that during this time, because again, this is part of that sanctification process for tomorrow night, where all males must appear. And that is so important to Yahweh that he said, if you don't do it, if you can't do it the first time on the first month, make sure you're ready for the second month. He doesn't say that with any other holy day. It also says in Jubilees 49, it also says that if you keep the Passover properly, it will keep the plagues off of you for the year. That's why it's done in the beginning of the year, to protect you for the whole year, so that you have the best chance. You already fumbling around fighting with our flesh. We don't need plagues on top of that to be dealing with that. And plague don't have to be physical. It can be spiritual in the mind as well. and cause you to constantly fight. So we want to take that serious, keep it together. Again, we don't know when it's going to be the last holy season we experience here in America. We don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. If you turn on the news today, you see what's going on with Russia right now, what's going on with Trump, what's going on with his currency. There's a lot going on now. And we say this every year as warning. You don't know how long it took for Noah to get the thing together, to get the ark. Something ridiculous.
I think 100 years.
100 years?
Something like that.
90 years? Something.
So
Like that 100 years, he's steady building, letting people know. And that's what we do. We build in our house. One person at a time. One person at a time. Gathering people together. Warning people. We building this house because this big storm is coming. And Yahshua is our foundation. He's our foundation, his word and his cornerstone. And people don't listen. But at the end of the day, when that storm came, people act like it just showed up out of nowhere. Nah, it been coming. You just didn't prepare. So this is why we take this chance to prepare. We never know when it's going to be the last Passover we're going to do in this land. So let us consider that. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? All right. All brothers remove their head coverings. And all sisters pray with their heads covered. And we're going to face the east towards Jerusalem, where our temple was and where our temple in Yahshua HaMashiach will return. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yahshak, Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yahshua, we thank you, Yahweh, once again for your mercy, Yahweh, and allowing blood to pass, Yahweh, to protect us, Yahweh, for we deserve death, Yahweh, for what our forefathers did, Yahweh, and not only for that, for what we did after knowledge of what our forefathers did, Yahweh. So we're thankful, Yahweh, for your mercy, Yahweh. We will not take it for granted, Yahweh. We make that covenant to you freely, Yahweh, that we will use this mercy, Yahweh, not for occasion of the flesh, not this liberty for the flesh, but to go seek your lost sheep, Yahweh, for we don't know the day, the time, the hour. All we know that your judgment is coming, Yahweh. And since you are so merciful unto us to partially open our eyes, Yahweh, we will utilize that time to find our brothers and sisters, Yahweh, to show you that we do not hate our brothers and sisters, Yah. So, Yah, this 14th day, this preparation day, Yahweh, we honor this unto you, Yahweh, as your Pesach, and we honor the sacrifice that our brother Yahshua HaMashiach had made for us, Yahweh, and we honor you supreme above all things, Yah. And Yah, we ask humbly, Yahweh, as we struggle through this time, Yahweh, that you have mercy, Yahweh, on all those that wanted to be with us, Yahweh, but were by illness not able to make it, Yahweh. We ask that you open their eyes, Yahweh, and show them the error in their ways. And Yah, those that see the error in their ways, Yahweh, but are not strong enough to make change, Yahweh, we ask, Yahweh, if it be your will, that you strengthen them and allow us to help be strength for them, Yahweh. Yah, these things we thank and pray, not only for us, Yahweh, once again, for all your children across the four corners of the earth, we thank and pray. Yah, we also have dates all over the calendar, Yahweh, with us as a nation, as sheep running around, Yahweh, with no shepherd, Yahweh. We ask that you please forgive us if our date is in error, and we ask that you also forgive those, Yahweh, if their dates are in error, Yahweh, and chalk it not to disobedience, but just to us being a lost people trying to find our way back home, Yah. And Yah, if we do be in error, we ask, as you have done in times past, that you please send a servant to guide us along the way and give us a heart soft enough to hear, Yahweh, so that we could be led of your spirit. Yah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we thank and pray through your holy, humble, anointed servant, Yahshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.